Okay, so one more video for today before I go play a couple of Tom Waits or the last two discs of the complete Bitches Brew sessions. Uh, we're gonna do a ranking of the solo albums of Bruce Dickinson. Now, there should be seven here, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, there's seven, but I might throw in a little wild card somewhere along the way. We'll see. But he's been doing solo albums since 1990, 91. Uh, On and off. There was a couple of years where almost 20 years where there wasn't a solo album. So we'll get to all that. First off, my number seven, we're going to go with the debut, Tattooed Millionaire. By the way, this is the extended remastered version where he covers Spirit of Joy from Arthur Brown. Kingdom Come. More on Arthur Brown later. We get Darkness Be My Friend, a cover of AC/DC's Sin City, a random B-side called Winds of Change, which is spectacular, by the way. Really underrated. Should be a bigger known deep cut from Bruce. And a live version of Riding with the Angels from Saxon before he joined Iron Maiden. He was back when he was 79 to early 81, and he was Bruce. Yeah. So this opens. This is more of a hard rock album. Think of what Ian Gillan did when he left Deep Purple, and you had the Gillan Band, not the band called Gillan, which was more of a new wave of British heavy metal act, which had Yannick Gers on guitar, who ended up in Iron Maiden in 1989, 1990, and is on this album as well. I mean, Ian Gillan's one of Bruce's biggest heroes, so makes a lot of sense when you think about how what Chris Allo on Sea of Tranquility would call the ballet dancer ended up in Iron Maiden and a whole bunch of other stuff. This opens with Son of a Gun, Tattooed Millionaire, born in '58. I love Hell on Wheels, Gypsy Road, not a cover of the other, but the amazing cover of All the Young Dudes, which he just did live with Green Day, or when they wear wigs and they call themselves the Cover Ups or something. But No Lies, fantastic. This is produced by Chris Zangarides. This is more of a rock album, a little bit of glam rock. So a little bit of a you got Mott the Hoople in there, of course, which David Bowie wrote that one, All the Young Dudes. You've got a little bit of T-Rex type of vibes. Son of a Gun's probably the heaviest song on here to open it up. That feels like a Maiden track, and everything else is just some of it gets goofy. Dive. Of course, it's a sex tune. Just talking about a submarine captain sinking the torpedo. Yes, it's deliberately Spinal Tap, Big Bottom. A lot of fun, but for what you expect from Bruce, the replayability is not the best. Number 6, I'm going to go with, again, I got the expanded edition, Balls to Picasso. So, Cyclops, Hell No, Thousand Points of Light, Laughing at the Hiding Bush, Tears of the Drake, Shoot All the Clowns, great. This has got a lot of bonus tracks. Holy shit. This has got Firechild, Elvis Has Left the Building, The Breeding House, No Way Out. Again, Winds of Change, Spirit of Joy. Over and Out, extended versions, remixes, Cadillac, Gas Mask, whatever the hell that song is, I don't remember. But those are the bonus tracks. Of the original 10 tracks, I need to listen to this more. Honestly, I don't like the production. This is 93. He just left Maiden. According to the new liner notes on a separate release, they did 3 different re-records of this album, and it's got a grunge production, so it's kind of muffled. It's very bare bones. Some things are hidden. Some of the transients and the acoustics are lost in translation. So it's not it's not one I go back to, and I probably should go and listen to track 2 to hear all these bonus cuts that I own. But it felt like a lost opportunity. Tears of a Dragon, of course, and Laughing in the Hiding Bush are fantastic, but most of the album gets lost in translation because of just what the mix was at the time. Okay, so number 5, this was difficult. Real hard because my number 5 was the last album for almost 20 years, and it's a fantastic album. But Tyranny of Souls. The Tempest is from Shakespeare is the basis for the title track to close this out. First of all, Tyranny of Souls, the title track, is in my top 10 Bruce solo tracks. It's that damn good. Uh, and honestly, whether or not you count Mars Within the intro, tracks 2 through 6 are just awesome. Abduction, Soul Intruders, Kill Devil Hill, which is about the Kill Devils in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. So literally, he wrote a heavy metal anthem about the Wright brothers taking off in 1903. The half folk rock and borderline prog metal, Navigate the Seas of the Sun, touching, beautiful, almost breathtaking at times. It doesn't feel like it should belong on this album, but you know it. It totally works, and I really love the River of No Return. Very very prog sounding, very churning. Roy Z back on the bass and the production and some guitars. Roy Z had worked with Bruce starting on Balls to Picasso as part of the band Tribe of Gypsies that backed him. And Roy Z would go on to produce, well, pretty much every single Bruce album since then. And he was also the he was also the bassist for and producer for the Halford Band. Yeah, go check all those Halford releases. Roy Z's on them. Why do you think the Three Tremors tune, The One You Love to Hate, happened, which was supposed to that project with Jeff Tate was supposed to occur, and there's only one live performance of all 3 of them. But Bruce is on the album for a reason. Getting off topic, but I could do the reason this is so low, as much as I love it, I could do without Devil on a Hog and Believal. Power of the Sun's fine. But it feels like a third of the album drops off a little bit, and then Tyranny of Souls comes back in and crushes. So that's why it's my number 5. I'm not saying it's bad by any stretch of the imagination. He's still trying different things. Adrian Smith was not on guitars for that album. I do not understand how, as both he and Adrian went back to Maiden the very same day and haven't left since. But whatever, Adrian was doing something, and he's not on that album. Okay, my number 4. Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit, but my number 4 is the 96 Skunkworks. Another Tribe of Gypsies backed album. And I have the expanded version, of course, with the disc 2 bonus tracks, the B-sides, Rescue Day, God's Not Coming Back, R101, Re-Entry, The Americans Are Behind, these little EPs and B-side singles with the live tracks from that tour. This is very melodic. It's very, think 90s Rush, and maybe mixed with a little bit of Oasis. It's just that type of Britpop versus 90s prog metal, Dream Theater type of style. Storm Thorgerson, Hypnosis, did the cover. So if you're looking at this and going, gee, that looks like Wish You Were Here. Or more precisely, this is 96, so 91 or 92 was Division Bell. Yeah, it's the same damn artist, so it's practically the same cover with the divinity and East versus West, man versus woman, duality of relationships and nature. Yeah, this is. If you didn't know this was a Pink Floyd looking cover, to give you an idea what the sound is, well, shame on you. Uh, Space Race, Back from the Edge, Inertia, Solar Confinement. So it's a dream state. I love Inside the Machine, Head Switch, Meltdown. The strongest song on here, honestly, is the very last track, number 13. Yes, there's 13 tracks. Strange Death in Paradise, talking about the fallout of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Just such an incredibly strong, well sequenced at that, tight track list. And this is one of those albums that the style might not, again, much like Tattoo Millionaire, may not be for you, but if you like 90s Rush, vintage Dream Theater, even Britpop to an extent, or what Pink Floyd and Roger Waters by extension were doing in the early 90s, this is for you. There's nothing to complain about here. It's just a slightly cleaner, sleeker production, but Bruce delivers. Uh, I have a lot of memories tied to this album. It took me over 10 years to get this copy, and I just remember on one of my drive backs from New York visiting family, my dad was in the car next to me, and he had a small TIA outside of Reynoldsburg, Indiana, and I had this album on replay for like 7, 8 times in a row. I got so sick of hearing it from that trip and that memory. I didn't play this for 4 years, and I tell you, I go back to it and I remember every note once it starts. I remember the lyrics. It's just one of those albums and moments of time. Yeah, I haven't heard it in a while. I'm gonna go put it on again in a couple days. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. This is my 4A. Uh, this is the new revitalized More Balls to Picasso. This is a double LP edition. I didn't get the CD version for the new remix with orchestrations and amped up drums and bass, violins. I My thinking was I already got the hard to find expanded 2 CD with the old remaster and some extended mixes and all that. Why get it again on CD even though it's cheaper? This is the clear splatter blue and white edition. Um, so for all this shit that I talked about the production, why I don't really listen to this album, they're two real die-hard classics. Uh, this is one of the most remarkable remixes, uh, like I said, revitalization redos I think I've ever heard. This is this is I think this is further than what Tane Iommi managed to do with the vinyl and CD remixes for Forbidden. I know that's the worst Black Sabbath album, but how many of us heard that remix of Forbidden and went, I gotta play that again. Holy shit, that was pretty damn good. Because all of a sudden you had more dynamics. It wasn't bone dry. You had those transient connections in the lower end and the mid range with the bass and the guitar and the yeah, Cozy Powell smacking the damn drum kit like he always because he was fucking thunder. This Cyclops, Hell No, Gods of War, the added vocal dimensions and reverb on things like Shoot All the Clowns, Laughing in the Hiding Bush, the violins and orchestration that sound natural on Tears of the Dragon, giving it more flow. This is I find myself reaching for this a lot. Uh, I know I said I had to listen to the old version a lot more and hear those bonus tracks, but I don't reach for whatever reason, I reach for this. I just got this in about a week and a half ago, and it's on heavy rotation. If the album had sounded like this in 93, 94, I think we'd be talking more about his solo career and his just commercial, his marketability, and the lasting power of his catalog on his own. But it was a piece of that time. Again, it was 93. You had all the grunge. It's a Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and everything. And it kind of took away from the power. This sets the record straight. And no, this is the go-to version. If you're gonna listen to Balls to Picasso, the second album, go for the more Balls to Picasso. Okay, my number 3 is the most recent, and there's even an ongoing comic book series. I need to go get the box set to get 1 to 3, and then I think number 4 just came out, or number 5 just came out, and it was 1 to 4 on the first. But this is the ongoing concept album, the Mandrake Project. He did stop in Chicago with his live band. If I'm not mistaken, at that point, that was September. I still had the job. I was just suspended. My ass should have drove to fucking Chicago and seen this, because I don't know. Hopefully I get that chance again. I definitely fucked that one up. But this is... I love when Bruce takes chances and does a lot of different things. But here, he takes the chances and does different things. He pulls it off. I mean, the first single, Afterglow of Ragnarok. Melodic. Great choruses. Just chugging bass and guitar. Rhythm section. It's everything you would expect from Iron Maiden, but you know, Bruce adds some keys and other symphonic elements to this whole album. The Many Doors to Hell feels like an Iron Maiden song. Hell is Rain on the Graves, with a great single with the callback to William Blake and Alchemy. More on William Blake and Alchemy a little bit, because this whole album's pretty much about alchemy. Resurrection, man, this whole story about like alchemists and, I don't want to say Illuminati, but fighting over the power of immortality and the divinity of souls and things like that. We get the follow-up to If Eternity Should Fail, which was a demo from 2014. Steve Harris loved it so much that he said to Bruce, much like with Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter from the Nightmare Freddy's Dead Nightmare 6 soundtrack, Steve Harris said, I really like that, and we're going to put it on the new album. What do you think about that? You know what? You don't really have a choice. We're just going to do it. So we get a sequel to that. Eternity Has Failed. Love Face in the Mirror. Shadow of the Gods, 7 minutes. It's just song after song. And then we get the 10-minute sonata, Mortal Beloved. And I personally, I wouldn't mind shaving a minute off of it, but who cares when it's this sequence? It's this heavy, and then also at times melodic, harmonic, symphonic. It's just every risk he takes on this, he pulls it off. And yeah, I need to get the comics, because this is the box one with the first issue 0 to set it up. Really worth your time if you've never heard the Mandrake Project. I think most of it's going to catch you by surprise. My number 2, I better wrap this up real quick. So my 2 and my 1 are the 2 90s albums that arguably some of the best Iron Maiden albums that Iron Maiden never did. And frankly, they're the 2 that Iron Maiden probably should have been making at that point with Blaze Bayley. But I like the X Factor. I'm not going to hold back on that one. But this is when my number 2 is when Adrian Smith phoned up Bruce after Skunkworks had failed, and Bruce was thinking about just wrapping it up and staying home, taking his ball. You know, he hadn't yet founded his own airline companies. The leftover Olympic fencer. He's not yet the tank collector and the full-blown pilot. Well, no, I think he'd gotten his pilot license by that point. But, you know, things weren't looking too good. And then Adrian calls, and down the phone plays a riff to what would be the title track of one of the best 90s metal albums of all time, Accident of Birth. And that's one cover. That's the box set. Uh, the puppet is named Edison, and drawn. All the artwork was done by Derek Riggs. Enough said. Uh, the original cover with the popping out of the fat dude's chest. This is again the 2-disc expanded version with the Japanese or special first edition Ghost of Cain added to it. This is an Iron Maiden album. Full stop. This is a vintage Iron Maiden album. Freak's not my favorite, but I don't always listen to that as the opening track. But Toltec 7 into Star Children, with all the grit and the occasional nasal nastiness Bruce adds to some of these tracks. You just pulls you right in. Every song has a remarkably memorable chorus to it. I didn't touch this album for 3 years, and I remember about 6 months ago I put this on just for the hell of it, and I'll be damned, I remembered the track listing immediately. Before the song even started, the lyrics popped into my head from the first riff or the first beat. This is, like I said, this is the type of album Maiden should have been making in the 90s. And there are no bad songs here. The epic storytelling, the fantasies that are taking the Queen into Dark Side of Aquarius. Road to Hell, which Kai Hansen would play with as Leaving Hell on Land of the Free Part 2, and he would, Kai Hansen, of course, has his little nods in Halloween and Gamma Ray of doing Priest and Maiden references, straight up, just copying from it and just doing a little homage, if you will. So you got Road to Hell on here. The Man of Sorrows, which was meant for The Chemical Wedding, a song about Aleister Crowley. And the Chemical Wedding, of course, both the album and the movie would eventually get made. Released here as Crowley. The title track. The classic stomper riff monsters, The Magician. The magician is my name. Whoa, the magician is my name. Yeah, we're getting 80s throwbacks here. Come on down to the pit. Welcome to the pit. The beautiful end of days track Omega, when the sun goes into red, supernova, goes into red dwarf, and then blows up and eventually kills us all. Arc of Space is just devastating, haunting ballad. Even Omega's pretty haunting, but Arc of Space is about, when he does it live, rarely. It's about a couple that died in, I want to say, either New Mexico or Arizona in the early 90s. They were convinced that they were going to meet their god, which was aliens. And but just how Bruce delivers this almost Grateful Dead, Joan Baez type of Spanish guitar folk ballad, if you will. And it's just the heartbreaking emotion, the depression to it, when you get that things are just a fantasy or a fairy tale, the disappointment, it just burrows into your head. It's one that I come back to, the whole album in general, but that song, when you're feeling just a little down or just confused and depressed, it's just one of those tracks. It's a massive deep cut that I think 90% of the people don't even know. But that's Bruce at his natural best, just showing off his talents. And number one, probably the metal album of 1998. And it's, at moments, it's heavy enough that you could almost think that I could see Pantera doing a couple of these songs. My number one going in, always my number one, The Chemical Wedding. So I said William Blake. The front painting is Ghost of a Flea from, what was it, 1846? So those don't know, William Blake wrote a lot about alchemy. He was a legit printer, uh, owned his own printing business, had money to begin with. He's a painter, a sculptor, a poet, a novelist, a theologian, philosopher. I mean, he's another one of his paintings back there. If you guys remember the movie, well, it was the second adaptation of it, but Red Dragon. The killer has the tattoo on the back, and the Red Dragon is one of the Red Dragon. The Madonna is another William Blake masterpiece painting. Some more William Blake. Most people know the whole God, or technically it would be Tell, because part of William Blake's creations include an entire made up, practically organized religion around, uh, you know, Tell. You got callbacks to Nebuchadnezzar, of course, but uh, an alternate universe of Jericho, Jerusalem. These are all different. A lot of these albums is based on the writings of William Blake. So, uh, Lovers in the Tower, The Killing Floor, The Book of Tell, Gates of Urizen. Urizen is one half of Cain and Abel. Jerusalem, talking about England being the original. Well, not really the original, but you know that reaching up for glory and being something bigger, but much like Jerusalem, bound in chains. Speaking of Arthur Brown does narrations for a couple of these songs. The Trumpets of Jericho, where uh, you know, Joshua blares the trumpet, but the walls still stand. You know, what if? Well, now it's, well, you fucked up. Now what do you do? Machine Men getting into just robotics and everything like that. Of course, one of my all-time favorites is The Alchemist, which he did play live on this most recent tour. And again, I'm kicking myself for not going because I never thought I'd hear that live. And had I made the 5-hour, 10-hour trip same day, yeah, I would have heard it. But just one of those tracks that I reach to. You know, don't try and blame me for your sins. Your sins are dead. Okay, it's 1819 was the cover for Ghost of a Flea. So if you dive into William Blake, just his artwork, and then you dive into his faux theology, which is still based on the real Judeo-Christian, and then by extension Muslim template, because it's mostly based off of, you know, three main religions are based off the same storylines, but they took away from the Brahmaic traditions out of India. That was part of the original main Christianity. You dive into the history and how you've been fucked over and lied to. It's pretty wild. But the Book of Tell is essentially, you know, God. You have Tell. You have the Urizen and his brother. All these different recastings and what ifs on organized religion and philosophy. It paints a very different picture, and it also fits into the Mandrake Project by extension. For the heaviness on this album, Adrian Smith restrung his guitar, and he used bass strings to get the thicker, muddier, almost guttural sound. That, you know, again, there are moments in time where you could think that Pantera would have recorded some of these tracks. Maybe not so much in the groove metal, borderline industrial style, but it would be fitting. Great production. Love the minimal use of reverb on Bruce, but when they do it, it sounds so great with the song, and it's Again, late 90s production tricks. So somehow I managed to talk this into a half hour. I don't know. There's not that many albums here, but I just I love what I love, you know? I'm a lifelong Iron Maiden fan, so and honestly, most of Bruce's output is probably stronger and more consistent than some of Iron Maiden's albums. Uh, Case in point, when I get to a ranking the albums of Iron Maiden, oof, oh, I'm not looking forward to that one. But this is a little easier to do. But again, you have your tastes. If you're more into the '90s prog metal, including '80s prog, was like Saga out of Canada, and you like your '90s Rush, and you like your Dream Theater, then Tyranny, not Tyranny, Skunkworks might end up being your favorite album. It's if you want a traditional Iron Maiden sound, well, Accident of Birth is definitely your go-to mid to late '80s throwback with some '90s riffage. If you want heavier, more pissed off, and more aggressive, then you go with the Chemical Wedding. Uh, uh, except the Chemical Wedding is a lot more epic. I mean, most of the songs on that album are at least 6 minutes. So it's what you're in the mood for and what your current tastes are. But that's going to call it a day there. That's 31 minutes. This computer's going to, I already cursed enough times. It's going to fucking die here. It's on 5%. Check back later. I'm going to go play some Tom Waits now and finish up the 2 discs remaining in the Bitches Brew sessions. I'll have a review on that 98 box set release when I'm done with it. And is it worth owning, or tracking down? So well and good. Go try some Bruce. Yeah, you got nothing to lose. Till next time, guys. Hey, it stopped raining in hell for once. See you later.